Welcome to Money Lion MMA's coverage of UFC Vegas 75, headlined by Marvin Vettori and Jared Cannonier. This is a fight card that'll be taking place in Las Vegas, Nevada, in the UFC Apex. Obviously, that's where they have the UFC 75, the UFC fights in general. Let me turn my sound up a little bit here. Um, this is Moneyline MMA's first experience going live. So if there are any hiccups during the process, Jose and I are new with this, but we're going live with the show going forward. We're going to target Mondays between 6 and 7 p.m. There obviously are going to be some days in there where it might have to change up due to holiday, or if there just aren't any fights the next Saturday coming up. But either way, I think we think a live show is going to be able to interact with fans more during the show, and then it will record the video and leave it up on our channel afterwards, just like always, for our fans to be able to view then. So I'm going to be kind of going back and forth between Jose and I, and then the statistics as we bring up our fights. But as always, we're going to be bringing these picks to you in the format of a weight system, a 5-weight system. There are 6 current fights right now listed to be on the main card, but we're going to be picking 5 of them and weighing them in order from 5 to 1. 5 is the heaviest weight and 1 is the lightest weight. That means that the 5 pick of yours is the most confident pick, and the 1 way to pick is the least confident. And obviously, it scales in between with 2, 3, and 4 being gradually more confident until you get to the most confident pick in 5 weight. And here at Moneyline MMA, Jose and I like to start with the most confident picks of ours. And starting off, my 5-weight and most confident pick will not be a surprise to anyone in the MMA community who's already seen some information on this card. It's of course going to be Arman Tsarukyan in the co-main event, a lightweight bout against a guy who's kind of stepping in last minute. It was supposed to be Renato Moicano. Now it's Joaquim Silva. Got to give him props for stepping in, but Jose, he is a plus 600 underdog right now in this fight against Arman Tsarukyan, a minus 1100 favorite. So, maybe I'm kind of picking the easy cherries at the bottom of the tree by making him my 5-weight. But it's just one of those things where we can't play games here. He is the most confident pick. What do you have on this one?
Yeah, Nick, I absolutely agree with you on that. Him being a major favorite, he himself is my 5-weight. I'm the most confident going with him. It's hard to argue. I mean, he's a young prospect and he's gone against some big names. He's gone the distance with Matus Gamera and Islam Makhachev, the current champ. And to me, being 26 years old and being able to do that says a lot. And no offense to Joaquim Silva, but yeah, he's just coming off a 1 win. But before that, he had 2 back-to-back losses, and he got finished in both of them via KO. I think it's pretty open to Armin to finish Joaquim Silva within the distance. I think he could has the opportunity to TKO him. I just think he overall is a more athletic fighter, and him being younger and just the experience that they've both had comparable to each other. To me, yeah, it's a no-brainer to go with Armin. Overall, he also has a slight reach advantage, so I do expect him to utilize his striking that advantage in his striking. Both guys like to throw a lot of shots, but overall, both are also really great with the takedown defense. Armin has a 75% takedown defense, while Joaquim Silva sports a 65% takedown defense. I think this fight is going to be on the feet. If anything, Joaquim will try to, I think, force in a submission at some point and rely on that. But overall, I think Armin's just too good, too athletic. I think he has this one in the bag for sure. So that's why he's my 5-weight.
Yeah, you said it well, man. I mean, I'm kind of showing the fans some of the stats here of the fights, the most recent fights of Silva specifically. And he isn't, it's been a lot of lightning in a bottle kind of fights. All four of his last 4 fights ended in a knockout one way or the other, but he's 2-2 in those situations. So we could see some fireworks here. But I mean, it's at this point, not only, like I mentioned earlier, too, he stepped in late on this fight. I just don't think there were some other guys I'm sure the UFC called first, right? And they were like, hey, are you willing to step in late against Saruki? And they're like, no, 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 no. Because they know that Sarukian is going to be a top 5 lightweight soon. Right now it is kind of dominated by the the big front with the strikers of Dustin Poirier and Chandler and those guys. But when those guys are all kind of getting to that point where they're making one last run for the belt, I feel like when this next generation of lightweights roll in, it's very clear that Gamrot and Sarukian and those kinds of guys are going to be, however long Islam lasts at the champion, it's going to be these kinds of guys that we are going to see be the big competition at the lightweight. They're going to be. I could definitely see Sarukian being a future champion. But like I said, that doesn't mean I'm saying he's better than Poirier and Gaethje. And it's just a fact that I think in time, just because Sarukian's pretty young, man, he's 26 years old. He's got a lot of. He's going to be continuing to improve, which is just another point on the list of reasons, man. He's going to continue to improve, and I think we're going to see a better version of him every time he comes in the ring.
I agree with you, Nick. Like Armin, I think once he starts reaching more his like MMA prime in his 30s, that he's going to be extremely scary. That him being 26, yeah, he's here to stay. And I just think that Joaquin, he's just another guy for him to just to go through on his journey to greatness in terms of being in the top five and probably redeeming and getting some fights, getting some of those couple of losses back and challenge maybe Islam one day for the title. So him being
Yeah,
young, him being super athletic, yeah, man. Again, I'm with you on this one. He's my five weight, just like you.
Again, he's already the rank 8 lightweight right now in the world. I mean, yeah, this is one of the easier picks. This is going to have to get parlayed, I'm assuming, on most people's cards, which could lead to it being a card destroyer if something catastrophic happens and Joaquim Silva somehow wins. That could be a big time for books. So definitely keep your eyes. Just be careful, right? Betting big amounts on Sarukian, especially in parlays. Like, I don't know. But there's that being said, Jose and I are clearly both very confident he's going to be able to get the win here. And the odds that I mentioned earlier, I might as well mention too. On the odds on this Tapology website are going to vary a little bit from what we have because we go off FanDuel. The Tapology website's great and all, but in the end, if you're actually putting money down, FanDuel I think is more reliable because they're going to have the more recent odds changes and updates from money coming in. So that being said, that does cover both Jose and I's most confident pick. You guys can rest easy that Arman Tsarukyan is going to be the lock of the week and a guy to consider on all your bets for the UFC fights on Saturday. Let's.
Yes. Oh, my bad. But
No,
yeah,
I was
so
just
yeah,
going to say, Jose, let's go to your 4 weight then.
yeah, I was gonna. So yeah, so that brings us over to the next fight, and yeah, the four weight, my second most confident pick, and this is actually the main event between Marvin Vettori and Jared Cannonier. Right now, Marvin Vettori, he is the betting favorite at minus 120, while Jared Cannonier is the slight underdog at minus 106. For this one, I'm going with the favorite again. Reason being is Marvin Vettori, he looked incredible his last fight against Roman Dolidze, and I think that how Jared Cannonier, even though he got that split decision win against Sean Strickland, I kind of was leaning towards Sean Strickland in that. And that being said, for me, it's hard to deny Marvin Torres' strong pressure. He's just going to keep pressing forward, and I think he's just literally going to try to walk Jared Cannonier down to unanimous decision victory. I think that's what Marvin Torres does best. Is just apply strong pressure, and if he can't wrestle him, put him against the cage and just hold him there and get that control time. And he's just a decision king. Jared Cannonier, he's known to be a finisher too, but I think against Marvin Vettori, he's hard to finish. I mean, this dude's been having nothing but 5 and 3 rounders nonstop since 2020, and he's just been on both win and loss spectrums of that. But sorry, I just kind of rambled on that, Nick. But what weight do you have this fight at?
No, you're good, man. It's a fight we both have a lot of confidence in because I also have Vittoria as my 4 weight. The listeners should know that we make our picks ahead of time and we do convene on our picks right before going live, but the picks themselves are made separately. And the only reason we like to know ahead of time is just so we can go in the right order. But in that case, we aren't making these picks like deciding like, oh yeah, let's make this guy our 5 weight. These are our individually picked fights that we both separately pick and then convene on at the end. So that being said, my 4 weight just so happened to be Vittori as well. I agree that Vettori, he's the favorite for a reason here. I think he actually has a viable wrestling threat, unlike Jared Cannonier. And honestly, I like his striking differential, which is something I'm showing on screen right now. He just lands a lot of strikes and absorbs a whole lot less. Cannonier has a positive striking differential at least, but it's a lot more slight. I just think, of course, Jared Cannonier has a lot of power, man, and that's the main thing I think he carries as a threat going into the ring is his ability to knock people out, and that's always going to be live. Excuse me, including Vettori. That's definitely live, but I don't think it's that possible. Vittori's been in there against the middleweights best, and really has only lost to the middleweights best. I expect that to continue here. I think Vettori kind of commands this fight. I don't expect it to end early. Maybe even combine that with an over 2.5 round bet. Because to me, if Jared Cannonier doesn't get the KO, he gets the loss. Now I know he recently won that decision against Strickland, but I'm kind of with you, Jose. I think Strickland, I don't know, man. That's kind of a bad judge's call if you ask me. So I think Vittori's really live here for multiple different ways of winning. I just don't think Cannonier is going to be able to put him out.
Yeah, and it's just for this one, it's hard to deny. Yeah, Marv Vettori again. Jerry Cannonier does have that puncher's chance, but I see it Marv Vettori. I'd actually be surprised if Marv Vettori could finish Jared Cannonier, or submit him, but both guys are tough. I see Marvin Vettori, unanimous decision.
Yeah, I mean, we're just looking at some of the stats here on the stream, and Jared Cannonier does sport a 64% takedown defense, which is pretty solid. But in the end, I just don't think it's going to matter if Vettori tries 3 or 4 takedowns. He's going to land one of them, and he might not get the submission, but I think at that point he's going to get the round win at the very least, which is going to go a very long way in getting a decision win in the 3 round fight here, or excuse me, 5 round fight, obviously. That's I was thinking 3 rounds because I was going to mention that I think Vettori has a lot of experience in 5 round fights. But to Cannonier's credit, so does he. Obviously, he's fought for the belt and went the distance with Izzy, unable to knock out Izzy and losing via decision. So he does have some experience, and he headlined an event against Kelvin Gastelum as well a couple of years ago, as we can see down here, right here. So that being said, that's still 2 fights, 5 rounds. Vettori's seen. He had 4 in a row. Vettori won his run to get the second belt chance against Izzy. He's doing multiple 5 round fights in a row. I think Vettori's gas tank. That's one of the last points I wanted to make. Vettori's gas tank is just it seems kind of endless. I don't think we're going to see him get gassed and wrestle his way into being knocked out in the 4th or 5th round. Because that's just not something he's done in the past. I fully expect him to be able to push the pace the entire fight. And I just simply don't think Cannonier will be able to, with the last point being that Cannonier is like 9.5 years older than Vettori. I think Vettori is another guy who's getting better every fight. He's still in a good spot where he's not so young that he has no experience, but he's not so old that he's on his last run for a belt. And I think he's going to keep getting better here, and he's going to be pretty soon to be another one of those guys like the Max Holloway Volkanovski situation, where it's like you almost can't deny this guy another belt shot, even though we've already seen Izzy beat him twice. But I think I'm going to go stop blabbering on about the main event. I just felt like I wanted to make those points because even though Vettori is our 4-weight, I actually still have a good amount of confidence in him getting it done on Saturday.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I do think his gas tank is going to be a major game changer in this one in terms of the big differential, I should say, because Jared Cannonier in a lot of his recent fights too, he does look like he's gassed out. You just see him standing right there, and he wants to step forward, but he's taking shots. And granted, he was going against people like Robert Whitaker and Israel Adesanya, so it's hard to compare those type of fighters to Marvin Vettori. But that being said, I think Marvin Vettori he's going to put on that strong pressure, like we said. So that moving on to the
For
next
sure.
fight, Nick. How about you let the folks know what weight you have your third fight at?
So the third fight for me is moving down to one of the more earlier fights on the main card. Right now there are 6 fights slated for the main card, and we're going to be discussing the second of those 6. Nicholas Mata against Manuel Torres. It's another lightweight bout on this card. And in this one, I'm saying that my three weight is Manuel Torres, man. I think he's been able to push the pace really well in his last few fights, and neither of these guys really actually have much UFC experience, so it's hard to get too much of a gauge on what they're capable of, and to some degree, it kind of feels like it could go either way, which is one of the main reasons he stayed as low as my three weight and didn't move up to the 4 or 5 weight spot. But man, Manny Torres has just been nothing but highlight reels for the UFC, at least getting a KO in the first round for Contender Series, getting a contract, and getting Performance of the Night first round KO in his first debut against Frank Camacho last year. But the thing is, man, that was May of 2022. It's been a year and a month since he got Performance of the Night in his UFC debut. It's just very fascinating. I wonder if there's an injury or something that kind of forced him out there. That is something I don't quite know. But either way, my main thing there is just that Nicholas Mata's chin to me is just not held up in the past. So, Jose, before I let you get the stage on letting us know what your weight for this one is, I'll let the fans know that Torres is a minus 188 favorite on FanDuel right now, and Mata's a plus 146 underdog. So I am taking the favorite, but so far at least, other than, of course, the Vettori fight, the odds are really close on that one. This is also a pretty close, nothing crazy in terms of like a minus 1100.
Yeah, Nick. So yeah, for this one, people probably won't believe it, but I have Manny Torres as well. And like you said it best. The dude is a highlight reel. The amount of fights that he finishes in the first round is ridiculous. He has phenomenal leg lock games. He has knee bars. He has heel hooks on record. So, and not only that, just overall his just overall well-rounded game. He's got great submission skills, and he's a flashy knockout artist. Yes, I've not seen enough of him, and I want to see more of him. And I'm excited to see him back this Saturday. But I'm actually like he is. I think he should be the favorite, but I am kind of surprised. Like not enough like I guess betting odds respect is given to Nicholas Iron Mata because he himself he is a knockout finisher himself. He out of his 13 wins, 9 of them come via KO/TKO. He overall has a 62% finish rate. He could make it lights out at any given moment for Manny Torres as well. I think Manny Torres though, he's never been knocked out in his career thus far. So again, now he's in the UFC, so the level of competition is definitely different. So a lot of times, a lot of guys aren't getting their first ever knockouts that they're experiencing them as in themselves being knocked out is happening in the UFC. And this is where they're really getting truly tested. So in that last win against Frank Camacho, Manny Torres had, I mean, Frank Camacho has not been looking so good, regardless, like in end tail of his UFC career. I mean, Manny Torres was his third loss in a row, and before that, he was coming off only one win out of the previous 3 fights as well. So Frank Camacho, that win against him, it was phenomenal. Not taking anything away, but I do think Nicholas Mota is going to be a lot more of a challenge than Frank Camacho coming Saturday. So Nicholas Mota is he as an underdog. I do bat an eye at that too. Like I'm looking at him like oh well, like that sticks out to me because it is there. But like you said, his chin has given out unlike Manny Torres's before. So at this point, it's just who goes for what. But I think Manny Torres, he has probably a good chance of winning this via submission, especially leg locks, because Nicholas Mata has been submitted before, and just the leg lock game right now in MMA is just not where it should be. Like in someone like Manny Torres with his skill set, I think he could be like someone that can just pretty much end it pretty quick. Also in the first round again via heel hook or knee bar again. So for this one, I have Manny Torres as my 3 weight.
Okay. Yeah, dude, those are some fair points. And as you were talking, I was kind of looking in through some of the stats here. And yeah, dude, I actually got a little bit more confident, to be honest. What I'm seeing here, man, is Manny Torres it dictates the pace, dude. He's got over 10 strikes landed per minute. We're talking almost a +7 striking differential per minute. That's ridiculous. I get that he may not be fighting top end competition, but we'll say the same thing about Nicholas Mata. He hasn't fought at top end. Now, everybody, there's an interesting debate right now going on about whether or not Jim Miller should be a UFC Hall of Famer, thanks to Daniel Cormier. But that's besides the point. That losing to Jim Miller is respectable, right? But he gets knocked out. That's a little bit different than losing outright. The fact that he was getting almost, it was actually, he was getting over doubled in striking output at that point. Nicholas Mata has a negative striking differential and has fought a couple of nobodies as well, man. I don't know. I'm not trying to disrespect Nicholas Mata by any means. I think he's got a lot of potential in the UFC. I'm just not sure it's going to be right now against a guy who's never been knocked out. And they've seen similar competition as far as experience and toughness goes. So that being said, that covers both of our 3, 4, and 5 weights. So just to reiterate, my 5 weight and Jose's 5 weight just so happen to be the same. In fact, all of our so far 3, 4, and 5 weights have all been the same, which is not discussed ahead of time. And that 5 weight for us is Sarukian, the 4 weight is Vettori, and the 3 weight is Manuel Torres. We have 2 more fights to go, and Jose, I'll let you take it away with your 2 weight.
So for my 2 weight, this fight is between Pat Sabatini and Lucas Almeida. And right now, Pat Sabatini, he is the betting favorite at -200, with Lucas Almeida being the betting underdog at +154. Right now, Pat Sabatini and Lucas Almeida, Pat Sabatini is coming off a first round TKO loss to Damon Jackson, while Lucas Almeida is having 2 back-to-back wins. One in the first round via submission, guillotine choke, not in the UFC, but one against Michael Trezano, finished him in the 3rd round. I think for this one, I'm going with Pat Sabatini. Reason being is he was on a phenomenal fight winning streak before his loss to Damon Jackson. And even in the UFC alone, he's won 4 in a row. And to me, just his experience in the UFC alone says a lot. So I think he should get this win against Lucas Almeida. But Lucas Almeida is an extreme dangerous fighter still. I mean, more than half of his wins come via KO, and then another 5 come via submission. So this dude is a finisher. He's not winning via decision. He is winning via KO and submission. He's going to be attacking and pressing Pat Sabatini, but I do think Pat Sabatini's experience should get him the win. Both guys are the same age, so I'm not really concerned about any age differentials in this one, Nick. So before I go on, what weight do you have this fight at?
So this is my 1 way right now. This is the first fight we're actually going to differ on, funny enough. And I've got Almeida as my 1 weight here. I was really kind of back and forth on this fight, so by no means do I really disagree with you much on Pat Sabatini. I think he's got a true threat on both sides of the game as far as striking and grappling, but striking very much less of a threat overall, which is kind of the main thing that led me towards Almeida just as like a flyer, because he is not only the underdog, which is enticing for me, but also I think he's a really live and underdog here that could make a splash. I think he stands up to Sabatini's ability on the ground. It may not be better necessarily, but it's there. Like you said, those submission finishes have proven Lucas Almeida's ability to get the submission. It's just a matter of doing it in the UFC. A lot of what he's been able to do in those submissions were before the UFC, and who's to say like we can verify that those were like really good fighters? Because I don't really know much about those guys. So, this is kind of the things that go back and forth in my head in terms of picking Pat Sabatini or Almeida. But in the end, man, I think Pat Sabatini poses less of a striking threat, and Almeida has a little bit of a size advantage there with the 71-inch reach and 3-inch height 3-inch height advantage is what I'm trying to say. So it might not be too much, but if that can help Almeida keep a little bit of distance and win a striking match, I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I see. I see what you're saying, Nick. Yeah, for this one, I think Pat Sabatini's path to victory will have to be just utilizing his wrestling. Overall, I think Lucas Almeida, I don't think he's that much better. but I do think it's his best chance of victory, especially because Lucas Almeida is just finishing power too, though. On the feet, I agree. Pat Sabatini, in order to get this W, he needs to keep a good distance, and I think overall not get hit as much because even his last fight against Damon Jackson, he Jackson only landed 16 out of his 27 um, overall strikes that he threw in that fight, and he was able to put Pat Sabatini out while Lucas Almeida, again, he can kind of repeat something like that, and it can be a back-to-back similar loss for Pat Sabatini. So I think he just needs to come out and be more aggressive than ever, and just really put the pressure on Lucas Almeida and utilize his strength in terms of the grappling department. So for this one, yeah, I got Pat Sabatini as my two way, but I'm not that confident. That's why he says my two way because I do think Lucas Almeida can put him out.
Fair enough. Fair enough, man. Sounds good. Well, then in that case, we'll move on to the last pick of the night. So just by process of elimination, that leaves my two weight and Jose's one weight. It's just a matter of who we've got picked. So for me, and this is obviously on the fight between Armin, the other Armin on this card, Petrosian, and Christian Duncan at middleweight. I'm picking Duncan, the current favorite, at minus 156, and Petrosian is currently plus 122. Duncan is really primarily, he likes to kickbox a lot. I think he's got really good, strong, powerful kicks. I think he's going to utilize that, and at least I think he'd be very smart to utilize that in his fight here against Petrosian. And if he's able to succeed in that, that's one of the driving forces between my pick here. Christian Duncan is currently undefeated in his MMA career. He's just a big dude at 6'2" with a 79-inch reach. I mean, Petrosian stands as similar height, but 79-inch reach is just crazy. Christian Duncan absolutely swept the floor with Dusko Todorovic in a first round KO. And Petrosian's done some similar work too. I got to be honest. Before I really looked into some of the fights and did some research on this, I would have picked Petrosian. Right, I would have picked Petrosian because I know that he's a dog, and I've seen him fight like in his fight against AJ Dobson last year. Very impressive. But after looking a little bit more into Christian Duncan, I think he might be one of the kryptonites, other than a grappler, a heavy grappler, to Armin Petrosian. But Jose, so which guy do you have for your one way?
Yeah, Nick. So this one is obviously again being my one weight, my least confident pick, and this one I definitely was really 50-50 on this one. Um, Christian Duncan does seem like looking back at it now, a more obvious favorite. But I will say did choose the underdog in this one, Armin Petrosian, and reason being is that like you said, he's a dog. He throws a lot of shots per minute, almost six. He lands almost 6%, 6 significant strikes per minute. And overall, his defense ain't bad. He's a good stand-up fighter, and I think that someone with a reach advantage like Duncan's, I think it should be no problem. I think Armin just needs to step forward. But yeah, Christian Duncan being a finisher, it is scary. I do think he can put out and make it lights out for Armin Petrosian. So this having Armin as my one way, I think is suiting because I just there's some value I do find as in him being the underdog in this fight, but not enough where I'm that confident in him that he's anywhere above my one weight. He's my least confident. He's the underdog in this one, and I won't be too disappointed if he loses because I it's just a coin toss this one for me. He's got that dog in him, and winners are gonna find ways to win. Duncan's got the power, and that's just really what scares me because I do think Armin Petrosian can fall victim to being a first round or second round KO if he doesn't stay sharp on his feet.
Yeah, so yeah, and that makes sense, man. That you put him at a one weight in an underdog spot. It really does. That's kind of what my pick there with Almeida was. Like he's a good underdog, but I'm not necessarily saying I'm that confident in him with my one weight. Um, Dude, this definitely could go either way. I like what I've been seeing out of his nickname is CLD, Christian Leroy Duncan. Um, he hasn't. This is a step up, is what I'm trying to say. No doubt about it. Petrosian's going to be the best guy he's ever fought. And if I'm being honest, I even have it in my notes that I think Christian Duncan is going to be a guy to fade in the future. There's no way he just makes this an elite, ridiculous, undefeated run through like 15 fights, right? He's going to hit a wall eventually. It's just a matter of where. And he is the favorite in this fight, as I mentioned earlier. So you can be able to. He's already the favorite in some of his fights, and part of that made me think like, huh, at what point is he going to fall and make someone else a lot of money because he's going to be a favorite and the underdog's going to win? I just don't think this is the situation. I think he is going to handle Petrosian with his size and Petrosian's inability to grapple or do anything on the ground. I think CLD ends up getting the KO against him, which is what he's done for pretty much his entire MMA career. So, in my opinion, you might as well make the bet CLD by KO. Uh, and at that point, we would want to wait and see who his next opponent is. I imagine he gets a pretty decent step up. What are they saying? Petrosian right now is the number 44 middleweight in the world. So if CLD beats him, you know, I don't think Petrosian's even scraping the UFC top 15, but CLD is going to be getting into that like opponent who's in the top 25 maybe kind of range, which is like perfect spot for me to fade him if you ask me and pick against him. So that's kind of the outlook I have for CLD.
Fair enough, Nick. Yeah, so there you guys have it. Yeah, I have Arm Petrosian, the underdog. He's my one weight, and Nick has DLC as his two weight.
Perfect. CLD.
CLD, my bad.
No, you're good.
CLD.
I think you said DLC
DLC.
like a game's deal. Like he just getting you could download
Uh,
DLC, man. Yeah, just
no,
download the
no, no.
deal.
I think he needs to change it up now. I think he needs to
Yeah,
change it up.
that's
I like
actually
it.
that'd be a funny nickname for sure. But cool. So just to recap, then for anyone who might have gotten here a little late, our five weight just so happened to line up and be the same at Armin Sarukian, excuse me, kind of obvious pick there as the heaviest favorite on this card. Our four weights also matched up to the same pick. Four weight on Marvin Vittori for Moneyline MMA to beat Jared Cannonier. Not necessarily. I would lean towards like over 3.5 rounds slash by decision there, but who knows? We just know that Cannonier's not getting the KO, and that's the main thing we're looking at there for Cannonier taking the L. Three weight also happened to line up. We both have Manny Torres. As our three weight to be able to get the win against Mata. And if you ask me, let's go so far as to say by KO. We got to get some juice on some of these picks because betting a guy minus 1100 wins you nothing. The Vettori pick, though, that's minus 120. I would love to parlay that around because I think that's great odds. Cannonier's getting some good respect, which he fair, righteously deserves, but at the same time, does he? He's like 39 or 40 years old. I think Vettori is a real prime pick there at minus 120. Moving on, the picks we just most recently discussed was the fight that's going to follow up Manny Torres, which is the Pat Sabatini versus Lucas Almeida. Jose has Pat Sabatini as his two weight, and I have Almeida as my one weight. And then finally, for the fifth pick of Moneyline MMA, I have between Armin Petrosian and Christian Duncan. I've got Christian Duncan as my two weight, the favorite. Jose's got Petrosian as his underdog pick, the one weight. So keep an eye on our Twitter at Moneyline MMA come Saturday. These fights are taking place at the usual time at night since the fights are in Vegas. So we'll tweet sometime Saturday afternoon with our final lock, underdog, and parlay. But it's likely going to be Tsarukian plus Vettori, and really the underdog between who you think is going to win between Almeida or Petrosian. So that being said, thanks everyone for tuning in. Expect us to be going live every Monday before the Saturday that the UFC has fights, and we'll do our best to make an announcement or a post somewhere on the channel if that will be altered to Tuesday, just based on timing for us or timing for holidays or anything along those lines. But then again, thanks for listening. Make sure to subscribe so you can catch our next live show next week, Monday. And otherwise, have a great week. We'll see you then.